Hallo Deutsch 2101. Okay, now that we've gone through the nominative and accusative case, let's now go over the dative case. And this just is another step to add another piece of the puzzle, if you will. So what we learn in the nominative, which is the subject, the person doing the action. The accusative would be the direct object, the receiver of the action. The dative case introduces the indirect object, which is the object or person to or for whom something is done. Okay, so for instance, if we look at the example down below here, right? Ich kaufe ein Auto. Okay, we have the subject, the verb, and the direct object. Okay, now that car that I just bought could be for me or it could be for someone else. So let's say I buy my wife a car. Ich kaufe meiner Frau ein Auto. Okay, so we're really just adding one element here. But notice the word order for where I place these things, these objects. I still begin with the subject and go with the verb. But instead of saying Ich kaufe ein Auto meiner Frau, it becomes Ich kaufe meiner Frau ein Auto. Notice too, the ending of meine, okay, becomes meiner. That's because in the dative, feminine die, okay, or eine, if it's an indefinite article, will change to der or einer. And that also talks about the possessive adjective, meiner. Okay? So here's a few more examples. Ich kaufe ein Auto. Ich kaufe meiner Frau ein Auto. Okay? And when we look at the table then, we begin with the nominative, der, die, das, die, accusative, den, die, das, die, dative, okay? Masculine dative becomes dem. Masculine neuter becomes dem. Okay? Dative in the feminine becomes der, and then the plural becomes den. And in most cases, if a plural indirect object is given, you would add an n to the end of that word. And we'll go through some examples of that. Okay? So you've seen the first two rows, nominative, accusative, in the previous accusative tutorial, and now we add the dative. Okay? Dem einem meinem Vater, dem einem meinem Kind. Notice that the masculine and the neuter are identical. Feminine, der, einer, or meiner Frau. Okay? And then for the plural, den, there is no indefinite article for plural, or meinen. And then here's the example I was talking about by adding an n. Normally, plural friends would be die Freunde, right? But now it becomes meinen Freunden or den Freunden. So we could substitute that if I bought the car for my friends. Ich kaufe meinen Freunden ein Auto. Okay? So just as we went over for the nominative and accusative interrogative pronouns, wer and wen, the dative now becomes wem. Okay? And the example that I had given was der, ihn, and ihm. It might even be easier to remember these by just the masculine definite articles. Der for wer, den for wen, and dem for wem. Okay, so let's go through these examples. Wer arbeitet als Physiotherapeuten? Okay, who works as a physical therapist? Wen besucht Nina in Salzburg? Whom is Nina visiting in Salzburg? Again, Nina would be the subject, the one doing the action. And then dative, wem schenkst du das Auto? Whom are you giving the car? Okay, or to whom? Gut. And so here are some additional examples. Ich kaufe den Pulli, right? Ich kaufe meinem Bruder den Pulli. Okay? Bruder would change from der to dem, ein to einem, mein to meinem. Okay, I won't go through all those specifics for each of these examples, but here you can see a lot of these. With the indefinite article, ich kaufe einen Pulli, right? Ich kaufe meinem Bruder einen Pulli. Notice that the indirect object is always in the middle. This will change when when we start referring to the objects as pronouns, but that will come here in a little bit. Ich kaufe das Buch, ich kaufe meinem Kind das Buch, right? Ich kaufe die Jacke, ich kaufe meiner Schwester die Jacke. Ich kaufe die Schuhe, ich kaufe meinen Eltern die Schuhe. Personal pronouns, we have all three cases so far right here. The first person becomes mir, right? Because you are the receiver of the action. Dir, ihnen, ihm, ihr, ihm, uns, euch, ihnen. Okay, so we could replace these. So let's look at our previous examples. Ich kaufe meinem Bruder den Pulli. Okay, I buy my brother the sweater. I buy him the sweater is how we're going to use the examples on the right. Ich kaufe ihm den Pulli, or ich kaufe ihm einen Pulli. If it's for the child, or my child, ich kaufe meinem Kind das Buch, ich kaufe ihm das Buch, or ich kaufe ihm ein Buch. For the feminine, ich kaufe meiner Schwester die Jacke, ich kaufe ihr die Jacke, or ich kaufe ihr eine Jacke. My parents, ich kaufe meinen Eltern die Schuhe, ich kaufe ihnen die Schuhe. Okay? Still, the word order stays exactly like that. Notice that the pronouns in this sentence are only for the indirect, only the dative, so everything still stays the same. Okay? It changes slightly if we refer to the accusative object. Okay? If we refer to the accusative object as it or as the pronoun, then it's going to change a little bit. It's going to change the word order. Okay? So here, once the accusative direct object is referred to as a pronoun, the word order will change. So instead of being subject, indirect object, direct object, okay, we're just going to swap. It'll be subject, direct object, then indirect object. Ich kaufe ihn meinem Bruder. Think of it this way, I buy it for my brother. Okay? And then if we buy it for him, okay, ich kaufe ihn ihm. Alright, so see if you can figure out what these are. So we know that den Pulli becomes ihn. What would be the pronoun for das Buch? What would be the pronoun for die Jacke? What would be the pronoun for die Schuhe? I'll give you a second to think that over. So das Buch is going to be es, right? Looking at this example here, if we were to refer to das Buch as es, ich kaufe es meinem Kind. Alright? Ich kaufe es ihm. So I buy the book, I buy it for my child, I buy it for it. Sounds odd, but that's how it's referred to in German. Okay? If you said sie for die Jacke, you were correct. Ich kaufe sie meiner Schwester, ich kaufe sie ihr. Ich kaufe. Okay, if you said sie for die Schuhe, you're also correct. Ich kaufe sie meinen Eltern, ich kaufe sie ihnen. Okay? So here's a few other examples. Thomas schenkt seiner Freundin ein Buch zum Geburtstag. Er schenkt ihr ein Buch. Okay? Remember, we're still beginning in this example with the dative because the accusative is not referred to as the pronoun or it. Now when we change that, kann es seiner Freundin nicht persönlich geben. He cannot give it to his girlfriend personally. Kann es ihr schicken. He can send it to her. Kann es ihr schicken. Gut. Okay? And just briefly, we do have a group of verbs, okay? The objects that they refer to would then change to the dative. So when you see these verbs, okay, for example, antworten, to answer, danken, to thank, gehören, to belong to, gratulieren, to congratulate, helfen, to help. Look at how they're used in a sentence. Warum antwortest du mir nicht? Why don't you answer me? Ich danke dir, I thank you. Das Buch gehört mir. The book belongs to me. Ich gratuliere Ihnen, Frau Ziegler. I congratulate you, Mrs. Ziegler. Und kannst du mir bitte helfen? Gut. Hope that helps. We'll go over more of this in class. Dankeschön. Tschüss.